morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Tech for Senior. I'm Ron Brown. I'll be your host for the next hour. This is, of course, July the 8th, and it is episode 222. 222. There you go. And we have a great show for you today. And also remind everyone that, of course, we have a show on Thursday this week. And so if you haven't joined us, please come and visit us there. We have a fun time, but it's not a Zoom meeting. So don't come to this Zoom address. Please go over to our, you can either watch it through Facebook or on our Zoom account, or sorry, on our YouTube account. So because we broadcast it out through StreamYard. If you follow our newsletter, of course, I have a link in the newsletter that says how to find our Thursday show. So please come and we have a lot of fun on Thursday. Speaking of the newsletter, we have lots of interesting things happening. We publish a newsletter twice a week. We publish it on Tuesdays and Saturday. And of course, last Saturday, you probably will have read my article on smartwatches and hydration. It's finally, the heat has come in our area and it's very, very hot. So hydration is important, particularly for seniors, and your smartwatch can certainly help you with that. So I'm sure that you all read the article on Saturday. The other thing is, of course, on Tuesdays, we have a man by the name of Bill James, who always gives us great tips on gadgets. Now, it's sort of a scary thing because a lot of Bill's gadgets I own. and his last week he had one on hoses. And so I said, Bill, I own that, but you've got it all wrong. And so I made a little video about Bill and the gadgets. I want to just play that for you today. I'm just going to remove my spotlight, and I've got a little video here I want to just play for you. Maybe this will help you with your hose problems. Ron Brown with Tech for Senior. Just a reminder that we have a newsletter twice a week, sponsored by the Glendora Seniors Computer Club in California, by Geeks on Tour, and by the Central Florida Computer Society. Thank you so much for our sponsors. On our Tuesday letter, we have a man by the name of Bill James, who writes an article on gadgets. Now, Bill must be reading my mind because I have a lot of the gadgets that he writes on. And the one that he wrote on last Tuesday was about hoses. And it's a great article, and he recommended a collapsible hose, which are great for seniors because it's light and easy to travel around with. But the article actually missed the most important point. And as you see on the diagram here, you'll see that the hose is in a traditional hose carrier that's bolted on the side of your house. Now, this actually doesn't work well for this particular hose and is a disadvantage if you put it there. Let me show you some modifications that I made and how I use this hose. Hey, Bill. This is my hose that I was telling you about. As I come down here, here's the bucket, and it's easy for me to lift. This is the quick disconnect on my hose. Just comes off there like that. And the hose just sits in the bottom here. And of course it fills up when it needs to be, when this needs to be used, it fills up. And then, but of course, when you go to put it away, it's full and has to be drained. That's why I have the holes in the bottom, and I just leave the nozzle open and it just drains. And then my hose just sits there like that. And the nice thing about it is I can move the bucket around. It's light, it's easy to move. There's nothing stationary on the side of the house. Works great. So there you go, Bill. Good article. So everyone, just make sure you subscribe to our newsletter because we have a lot of fun with it and there's lots of good information there. Today also we have, speaking of Bill's going to be talking about in our premiere version that we have premiere video coming out at hour. Bill is going to be talking on setting up a mesh router. Ray's going to talk about the history of the lowly mouse. Remember that, Ray? Indeed, good one. And he was going to talk about chatbots and how they don't all agree all the time. So that's an interesting one. So lots of interesting information. This is coming on our premiere video at 1:30. I want to thank Elizabeth Bradley for her generous donation this week. Thank you very much. We still have our coffee fund going. And don't forget, coming up, we also have Prime Day. Amazon Prime Day is on the 16th and 17th. And in preparation for that, we have a talk today about how to stay safe on Prime Day. And we'll have one as well next week in preparation for those two 2 days of Prime Day. Today, of course, we have a great show for you. I have the honor of having my daughter here today. So I'm going to do the introduction now before I introduce well, let me introduce everybody first before I do that, because what we're going to do is Bob is going to do his security news update, and then she'll come on right after Bob. So I'll introduce her before that. But let me introduce Huey, you're doing okay?
Doing great.
Doing great. Great. Not too hot down there. I don't see you have a sweater on, so it must be.
It's plenty hot, but I prefer the heat than I do cold. And by the way, this coming Sunday is the Windows SIG from CFCS and Snug. So this week I will be busy getting all that ready.
All right. Bob, you're looking quite techie there behind you.
Thank you. I have something new that I'll be doing in my security news roundup. I intend to wear a shirt to feature one of the either computer clubs or some worthwhile nonprofit. The shirt I'm wearing today is from the Licking County Computer Society in Ohio, and I'd like to feature your club when I do the security news roundup. And if you're interested, it'll cost you a t-shirt or polo shirt and the postage to send it to me. And that's it. There are no strings. I'm not looking for donations, but if you'd like your t-shirt or your club featured when I do my security news roundup, send me a shirt. And then I'll rotate those shirts. So how often your shirt appears, that depends on how many shirts or donations I receive. Should be fun.
So if I sent you, I had some prototype Tech for Senior shirts made up. How about if I send you some of those? Would you wear those?
That'd be fine. I'd love to do that.
All right, then.
I will post my address in the chat for anyone interested in sending me a shirt from either their club that they belong to or a worthwhile charity. I'll be happy to wear that when I do the security news roundup. And the shirt that I wear that week will be listed in that week's security news roundup notes.
All right.
Bob also mentioned your size, so you don't get one you can't put on.
Extra large.
All right. Thank you, Bob. And Ray, are you taking music lessons, or what's with the piano back there?
I just thought that would be a better view of my background than what I had before, considering what I talk about each week. But I wanted to mention that we were talking about earlier today, the temperatures and how hot they were. I spent Friday and Saturday in Phoenix, and I again met my all-time high while being in Phoenix of 118. So no complaints that it was 104 or 105. That's 118.
Very good. Well, there you go. That's hot for sure. And Bill James, I tasked Bill last week. We had a little chat, and it's clear that I didn't think people really understood the importance of downloads directory. So I phoned Bill up and said, Bill, can you do something on downloads directory? So great guy, he did. So he's going to be talking shortly on downloads directory, right, Bill?
Right, correct. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. We are going to get moving. Chris and Jim, of course, are off scuba diving. They should be back next week, but they are under the water. Okay, so listen, I want to introduce my daughter now. She'll be on right after Bob. Her name, of course, is Jennifer Brown, and she has taught. She's an educator. She has her master's in education, and she's taught in New Zealand, Singapore, Beijing, and now is in Addis, Ethiopia. Her husband is a teacher as well. just finishing his PhD. And Jennifer, of course, talks internationally at many different conferences. She said, Dad, what do you want to talk about? And I said, I don't know. And she said, how about smartwatches? Do you know anything about that? And I said, you got to be kidding. I've done 22 videos on smartwatches. Well, I guess I didn't know everything, because an hour later, she informed me on all the things I didn't know. And so the title of her topic today will be purchasing a smartwatch for your grandchildren. So that should be an interesting one. And she'll come on right as soon as Bob finishes. So Bob, why don't you start and we'll get going with the show.
Here is my security news roundup for the week ending July 5th, 2024. Driving licenses and other official documents leaked by Authentication Service, a company that helps to authenticate users for big brands, had a set of administration credentials exposed online for over a year, potentially allowing access to user identity documents such as driving licenses. You may never have heard of the Israeli-based authentication company Authentics, but you will certainly recognize some of its major customers, like Uber, TikTok, X, Fiverr, Coinbase, LinkedIn, and Saxo Bank. For now, there's not much that individual users of the brands can do apart from keep an eye out for any official statements and consider an ongoing identity monitoring solution. Read more at thehackernews.com. Poseidon Mac Stealer distributed via Google Ads. On June 24th, we observed a new campaign distributing a stealer targeting Mac users via malicious Google Ads for the Arc browser. This is the second time in the past couple of months where we see Arc being used as a lure, certainly a sign of its popularity. It was previously used to drop a Windows rat, also via Google Ads. We saw an ad for the Arc browser belonging to Coles and Company, linking to the domain name arcthos.org. People who clicked on the ad were redirected to arcdownload.com, a completely fake site offering Arc for Mac only. Read more at malwarebytes.com. New Intel CPU vulnerability Indirector exposes sensitive data. The attack, codenamed Indirector by several security experts, leverages shortcomings identified in indirect branch predictor and the branch target buffer to bypass existing defenses and compromise the security of the CPUs. The indirect branch predictor is a hardware component in modern CPUs that predicts the target addresses of indirect branches. The researchers noted, as countermeasures, it's recommended to make use of the indirect branch predictor barrier more aggressively and harden the branch prediction unit, designed by incorporating more complex tags, encryption, and randomization. Read more at thehackernews.com. Google and Microsoft commit to cybersecurity assistance for rural hospitals. Google and Microsoft are working together, and it's not on a chatbot or new virtual reality glasses for cartoon paper clips. The Biden administration announced on June 10th that the two tech giants have committed to making their cybersecurity services and training more easily available to rural hospitals, facilities that the executive branch noted can suffer greater disruptions from healthcare-related cyber attacks, in part because their remote locations make diverting care more difficult. Read more at healthcarebrew.com. OCU 2024, 10 billion passwords leaked in the largest compilation of all time. The largest password compilation with nearly 10 billion unique passwords was leaked on a popular hacking forum. The Cyber News research team believes the leak poses severe dangers to users prone to reusing passwords. The king is dead. Long live the king. Cyber News researchers discovered what appears to be the largest password compilation with a staggering 9,948,575,739 unique plaintext passwords. The file with the data, titled RockU2024.txt, was posted on July 4th by forum user Obamacare. In its essence, the RockU 2024 leak is a compilation of real-world passwords used by individuals all over the world, revealing that many passwords for threat actors substantially heightens the risk of credential stuffing attacks. Researchers said, read more at cybernews.com. 𝕤𝕝𝕖𝕃 𝕃𝕀𝕂𝔼 app breach exposes millions of phone numbers. Cloud communications provider 𝕤𝕝𝕼 has revealed that unidentified threat actors took advantage of an unauthenticated endpoint in Authy to identify data associated with Authy accounts, including users' cell phone numbers. The company said it took steps to secure the endpoint to no longer accept unauthenticated requests. The development comes days after an online persona named Shiny Hunters published on breach forums a database compromising 33 million phone numbers allegedly pulled from Authy accounts. We have seen no evidence that the threat actors obtained access to 𝕤𝕝𝕼's systems or other sensitive data, it said in a July 1st, 2024 security alert. It's recommended that users upgrade their Android and iOS apps to the latest version. Read more at thehackernews.com. Global police operation shuts down 600 cybercrime servers linked to Cobalt strike. A coordinated law enforcement operation, codenamed Morpheus, has felled close to 600 servers that were used by cybercriminal groups and were part of an attack infrastructure associated with the Cobalt strike. The crackdown targeted older, unlicensed versions of the Cobalt strike red teaming framework between June 24 and 28, according to Europol. Of the 690 IP addresses that were flagged to online service providers in 27 countries as associated with criminal activity, 590 are no longer accessible. Read more at thehackernews.com. How MFA failures are fueling a 500% surge in ransomware losses. The cybersecurity threat landscape has witnessed a dramatic and alarming rise in the average ransomware payment, an increase exceeding 500%. Sophos, a global leader in cybersecurity, revealed in its annual State of Ransomware 2024 report that the average ransomware payment has increased 500% in the last year, with organizations that paid a ransom reporting an average payment of $2 million, up from $400,000 in 2023. Separate Risk and Insurance, a leading media source for insurance industry, reported recently that in 2023, the median ransom demand soared to $20 million in 2023 from $1.4 million in 2022, and payment skyrocketed to $6.5 million in 2023 from $335,000 in 2022, much more than 500%. Read more at thehackernews.com. This week's must-see on my YouTube channel, Ransomware as a Service, the Uber of Cybercrime. Explore the dark side of the web with Ransomware as a Service, where cybercriminals lease ransomware to affiliates, amplifying their reach. Please watch my video on that topic by following the link listed. Did you know the popular candy bar Snickers was created by Frank and Ethel Mars of the Mars candy family and named after their favorite horse? Buttermilk has no butter in it. The milk is called such because it's what's left over after the fat is removed to make butter. Just thought you might want to know. The greatest gift is not being afraid to question. Thanks to Ruby D. And that's a wrap for this week's Security News Roundup. Stay safe, stay secure, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, and thanks for watching and listening.
Thanks, Bob. Good stuff. Buttermilk. I use that for my chicken. That's what I soaked my chicken in last night for our dinner today. Anyway, without further ado, here's my daughter talking about smartwatches for your grandchildren.
Hi, I'm here back this summer for the holidays, and my dad invited me on the show, and I said, what do you want me to talk about? And it just so happens that my son's smartwatch needed a new battery, and I said, how about I talk about smartwatches for kids, in case anyone out there is thinking about getting a smartwatch for a Christmas present or a birthday present or pitching in. I thought maybe I'd share some of my own personal thoughts on smartwatches for kids. So number one, as a teacher, the last 2 schools I've worked at, smartwatches have been completely banned from the schools. And I know here in British Columbia next year, the smartwatches they're moving towards a ban as well. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, generally, at least at international schools, kids rock up to schools with Apple Watches, which are really, really expensive. And so it doesn't make much sense for a 8-year-old to have such an expensive watch at school that can go missing so easily. But there are other couple of things that make having a smartwatch at school tricky. Things like once when I was working in Beijing, a grade 2 student ended up calling all of the Beijing's emergency response. I don't know if it was on purpose or accident, but they called them, and we had the Beijing fire department, police, and ambulance service all come to our school. And the principal actually went and got the child and marched the child out to the gate to see the parade of service cars that had arrived. I think it was an accident. And then after that, there was no more smartwatches. Smartwatches also have cameras on them. And in this day and age with kids taking pictures and consent and whatnot, it's just a good idea that they're not at school. And they're also a big distraction, especially Apple Watches. They come with games on them. And so as far as the schools are concerned, there are a lot of schools around the world are moving to a complete ban on them. It's tricky for parents though, because I know that parents like to get in touch with their kids, being able to call them, send messages. If I can understand if children have any issues at the school, and the parents want to make sure their kids are safe, then I can see like the attachment to, wanting to stay in touch with your child while you're at school. So I guess the first thing to think about if you're thinking about a gift for your grandchildren or whoever with child with a smartwatch is think about like where they're going to wear it, what time of day they're going to wear it. Can they wear it to school? Is it a weekend thing only? And so that would be a good place to start talking with whoever you're buying a smartwatch for. The next one was when we started to look for smartwatches for our son. We didn't really want him to have a smartwatch, but we bought it during the COVID pandemic when we were all doing online learning. And even at 3, our son had online meetings, and we needed structure to our day. So he was often with our nanny. So I needed to keep a schedule of where he needed to be, what he needed to do, because we were all working at home. But I didn't want a smartwatch with any games. That was my number one thing. I don't want any games on my smartwatch. And we didn't want a smartwatch that needed to be charged, because that was just an added level of complexity for us that we just didn't want. So after a lot of research, I found this little watch. It's made by Garmin. It looks more like a Fitbit, but it's a Garmin watch. I think it's called a Garmin Vivo. So this Bluetooths to my phone, or it can Bluetooth to any phone, I suppose. And then it comes with a app that you download. And then there's no charging. It just has one of those little circle batteries that you put into it. But it keeps track of his steps. On the app, if he collects so many steps in a day, it unlocked a chapter of a story, which was kind of fun. So every day we would check his steps and check the app and see and it was a Star Wars watch. So it unlocked chapters in a Star Wars story. The other thing I liked about it was that I could program chores and alarms. So if I wanted him to do several chores, I'd make a checklist on the app on my phone. And if he did it, then I can click it off and then it gives points. And I could also set alarms, but that was pretty much it. He can't contact friends. There's no phoning. There's no GPS. There's nothing. But he has loved this little watch, especially when we travel. We all compare our steps. The data is sometimes really interesting. I can look at his long range data. Like, we just moved schools. So the other day I was curious. I wonder if he gets the same step count at his new school as his last school. And I was able to look that information up. But this is like, I would say this is kind of halfway between a dumb watch and a smartwatch. But he loved it, and he loved the unlocking the stories. There was incentive to it without gamifying anything. And there's no games on it, and so it's not a distraction. There are brands of smartwatches out there that kind of fall, I would say, into a middle range smartwatch where it's not open, it's not an open service. So when you get your smartwatch, parents have full control over the contact list. So this is something else to think about, is who is accessing the smartwatch. So I know there's some phones out there that it's only the parent's phone number that can go onto the smartwatch. I've seen smartwatches out there that have degrees of like different levels of contacts that you can choose. Maybe you want 5 contacts. Maybe that includes your emergency list with grandparents in it. But children cannot add any contacts, so they can't add their friends. You can get smartwatches that have GPS on them. So if your family, or if you have family, that your child is walking home or beginning to take themselves to soccer classes, that might be option that is helpful. And then I know some smartwatches also, there's a monthly subscription fee, so that, again, the data is not out in the world. You're paying a subscription fee for the information to stay private on that. It's a closed circuit. And then there's all the bells and whistles, games. I was just doing a little search last night on the watches, and there's some phones out there or watches that advertise so many games as like that's what parents want. And there's some watches that just say like a virtual pet. But even a virtual pet, I think there's problems with the distraction piece. And then you get to your Apple Watch, which has everything out on it. But then it's like cost, charging, games. And as far as I know, it's open for contact lists and people to contact you. I don't know what the parent controls are on Apple Watches, but these are all some of the things you'd want to think about before buying an Apple Watch for anyone. And then, of course, like you want children to also be able to read and just tell time on an analog clock. So I think what we might do at the moment is this watch is out of batteries. It lasted 2 years without battery change. We might go get him a little cheap watch with some hands to tide us over until Christmas, when we might do the next version up in this watch, which I'm sure our son will be not so thrilled with, but we do want him to be able to read a clock. But I do think smartwatches are really fun, and the step count piece has been something that's been enjoyable for us as a family. I have a Garmin, and so my son and I can even like put competitions with each other between our watches, so that's kind of fun. He says he's met other children at school with the same watch that he can set challenges. I don't know how he can do that, but there's no chatting feature. It's just connecting and competing with their footsteps. And that's it. So I hope if anyone out there is thinking about a smartwatch as a gift, maybe those are some things to think about before you go out and buy, because there are a lot of watches out there. But I didn't want to tell you all the brands because you can find those out yourself. But I think definitely the things to look at are cost, the ease of use, like in terms of charging. Does it have games? And then the degree of openness the child is on the digital platforms like GPS, social media, cameras, and do you want those things on your smartwatch? That's it.
Thanks, Jennifer. Can you just remind everyone what the name of that smartwatch is again?
This one is a Garmin Vivo, I think, Garmin Vivo Junior, and they've just come out with a new one. Which is $99 on Amazon, which is a pretty, in terms of the smartwatch cost, I think it's a pretty good deal, especially considering like we've gone through 2 batteries and we've had this watch for 4 years. So it's lasted the test of time, and my son never takes it off. And just in the last 2 months, the strap, there's a little piece of strap that broke off. So he's worn this swimming, he's worn this traveling, he's worn this all over the world, and it hasn't broken down. There's little engraved Star Wars pictures on it that have rubbed off, but he's found it super comfortable. And so this was a really great find. So we'll probably just stick with this brand.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's move on now. And Bill James, do you want to take it away?
The Downloads folder, your hub across Linux, Android, and Mac OS. I'm Bill James, Tech for Seniors. Our presentation this morning is on the Downloads folder. It's a folder in modern computer operating systems as the default directory or folder designated for storing data from a download from the internet or other network sources. The Downloads folder is a standard feature across Linux, Android, and Mac OS systems, offering a consistent and convenient way to manage downloaded files across different platforms and serving a similar purpose across these platforms. The default location for downloads. When you download files from web browsers, email clients, or other software, they are typically saved to the Downloads folder by default. This centralizes all downloaded content, making it easy to find and manage. Ease of access. The Downloads folder is usually accessible directly from the file manager or desktop, often with a shortcut or quick access link. This convenience ensures that users can quickly locate their recent downloads without navigating through complex directory structures. Organization and management. Operating systems often provide tools and options to help organize the Downloads folder. Users can sort files by date, type, size, and name, and can create subfolders to categorize files manually. Security considerations. The Downloads folder is a common target for downloaded files, which can include potentially malicious content. Modern operating systems include security features like sandboxing, automatic scanning, and user permissions to mitigate risk associated with downloaded files. Customization options. Users can change the default download location if they prefer to store downloaded files in a different directory. This setting can be adjusted in web browsers, download managers, and other applications. Integration with applications. Many applications are designed to interact with the Downloads folder. For example, web browsers prompt users to open or save files directly from this folder, and email clients might save attachments here by default. Temporary storage. While the Downloads folder serves as a convenient holding area for new files, it is often used as temporary storage. Users are encouraged to move important files to more permanent locations, like specific project folders or cloud storage, to keep the Downloads folder uncluttered. Cross-platform consistency. The concept of a Downloads folder is consistent across major operating systems like Windows, Mac OS, and various Linux distributions. This consistency helps users who switch between different operating systems to maintain a familiar workflow. Linux, Android, and Mac OS systems. A Downloads folder is found in Linux, Android, and Mac OS systems, serving a similar purpose across these platforms. In Linux, location and access. In Linux, the Downloads folder is typically located in the user's home directory. It is accessible through the file manager of various desktop environments like GNOME, KDE, and others. The usage and customization. Applications like web browsers, email clients, and download managers save downloaded files to this folder by default. You can also customize by changing the default download location in the application settings if needed. Android location and access. On Android devices, the Downloads folder is found in the internal storage and is accessible via the built-in file manager or third-party file management apps. Some platforms, for instance, Samsung phones, have an app labeled My Files, and within My Files, there's a subfolder labeled Downloads. Usage and integration. When files are downloaded from web browsers, email apps, or other sources, they are stored by default in this folder. And they also integrate, including document readers, media players. They can access files from the Downloads folder directly. Mac OS location and access. On Mac OS, the download folder is located in the user home directory. It's easily accessible from the Finder sidebar, the dock, or via the Go menu in Finder. Usage and customization. Usage. Web browsers and email clients and other applications save download files to this folder by default. Customization. Users can configure applications to save downloads to a different location if preferred. Common features across all systems. Centralized storage. The Downloads folder acts as a central repository for all downloaded content, making it easier to locate and manage files. Ease of access. Each operating system provides easy access to the Downloads folder through its file manager interface. Common features across all systems. Organizational tools. Users can organize, sort, manage files within the Downloads folder using the file manager. Security. Operating systems implement security measures to handle potentially harmful downloads, such as built-in antivirus scanning and permission management. In summary, The Downloads folder is a standard feature across Linux, Android, and macOS systems, offering a consistent and convenient way to manage downloaded files across different platforms. The Downloads folder in modern computer operating systems provide a centralized, easily accessible location for managing download files, enhancing user convenience and system organization. I'm Bill James for Tech for Senior. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Bill. Lots of good information. And I mentioned to everybody in the chat that you made all those images with AI. Aren't we having fun? Excellent. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Bill. All right, moving ahead, we want to talk. Bob and I have teamed up to do a video together today, and this is to help you with the upcoming challenge of Prime Day. So let's see what we have to say. I was standing in line at the dollar store this week, and a man in a business suit was in front of me. He stepped up to the counter. The cashier asked how we would like to pay. His product was $3.75. He put his debit card into the machine, used his PIN number, and bought this inexpensive item with his debit card. I'm Ron Brown with Tech for Senior, where we teach seniors about technology and help them stay safe when purchasing online products, particularly in upcoming Prime Days. So today, Bob Gostischa and I have got together, and we want to talk about debit cards and how you need to keep this secure and safe, maybe not use them as much, or let me think about that. Let's see what I have to say. It might surprise you. So let me tell you the difference between a debit card and a credit card. Let's say you had $200 and you wanted to put it in the bank. You would then go to a bank, see the bank manager. The bank manager would take your $200, open an account for you, and deposit your money. But how do you get your money out of the bank? The bank manager would then give you a debit card, and you would then be able to electronically get the money out of your bank. That $200 that you have, you could use to pay for groceries or whatever. But the important thing that you understand is it doesn't require a credit check. There are no contractual obligations. And most important, it's not a credit card. It's easy to get, even if you've had very poor credit ratings. All right, let's talk about a credit card. Credit card is a different situation. If you want a credit card, then you have to sign a contractual obligation with a credit card company. Now, most of you would probably do that with MasterCard, Visa, or American Express. So this involves a lengthy credit card application in which there is a credit check. Not everybody can get a credit card. You have to have a good credit rating. You then have to read a very lengthy contract, and if you read all the paragraphs in that contract, they are all in the favor of the credit card company, except for one paragraph, and that is fraud protection. And that is one of the big advantages of a credit card is fraud protection. You now have your credit card and can use it. So we have debit cards and credit cards. And I do appreciate the choice that you have, and that people do not want to have credit cards and they want to live debt-free. So they use debit cards. I appreciate that as well. But you have to remember that a debit card does not offer security. For example, if you lose your wallet on the bus and someone finds it, but the $200 in your wallet is gone, you can't go to your bank and say, hey, someone took $200 out of my wallet. It's the same thing as that man with the business suit. If there was a skimmer on that card reader that he paid $3.75 for, and he put his PIN number in, they could drain his bank account very easily. So there is a big risk in using a debit card, particularly with electronic machines, online, etc. So how can you protect yourself with a debit card? And that's the topic I want to talk about today, because you can link your debit card into your Apple Pay or Google Pay, which is a very secure way of doing a transaction. It doesn't give any information about you to the vendor. It is an added level of security that will make your debit card a much safer device to use. Bob and I have teed up today, and we have a couple of videos to show you about using Apple Pay and Google Pay and why it's so important. All right, let's look at how this works. Let's take our traditional credit card. What you do is you put this into the reader and the transaction occurs. And as you put it into the reader, the credit card number and PIN number are recorded in the reader to make that transaction occur. The problem with this is if there's a skimmer, the bad guys have come and actually made a physical altercation to the reader, this can compromise your card and of course provide the bad guys with some very important information. Now this doesn't occur often, but is a potential risk, particularly with readers in restaurants that are often left unattended. So there are some problems with this. So then we have a situation where it has tap and pay, where you can actually take your credit card if it has that little tap and pay signal on there, and you actually can tap the card. Well, how does that work? That uses an older technology called EMV. So your credit card number and your PIN number are not actually transferred. So it is a secure transaction that occurs between them. This is more secure than inserting it in a reader. But of course, in my case, it never works, or it only works some of the time, because I have my credit card in my back pocket. Sometimes the tap works, sometimes the tap doesn't work. I have to often request a new card from my credit card company because it always works better when I get a new card. So there are a lot of complications with this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So what we're going to talk about today is Google Pay, Samsung Pay, and Apple Pay. And that's where your phone now becomes your credit card. There's a link between your phone and your credit card company. This becomes your credit card. I'm going to show you how to set that up in a minute, but there are a lot of advantages because, of course, we use a different technology than the old EMV that didn't work that well. We use it's called NFC, or near field communication. In other words, there's a radio chip in this phone that actually sends a broadcast to the reader. Now you probably understand Wi-Fi, you understand Bluetooth. Well, NFC is yet another form of broadcasting that is available on most cell phones. Now the advantage of NFC is that it only broadcasts 1 or 2 centimeters. You have to be very close for the receiver to pick up the signal. The other thing that happens is when NFC broadcasts from your phone to the reader, it only sends a transaction number. There's no identifier or no information that is kept, or there's no information that's transmitted to the reader other than a very long, complicated number. So that makes this very secure, and also it works, at least I've been using mine for a week now. It works all the time. It's not like that stupid credit card where you tap and pay and it doesn't work. Take 3. Okay, I'm here today and I'm going to be using my Google Pay on my phone. And I've got Andrea here with me because she is a wonderful person and a friend of mine for a long, long time. We used to be in Rotary together, and she's a kind-hearted soul that's going to help me if I have trouble with this. Oh my gosh! So now I'm here at On the Fly. If you stop by at Comox Airport, be sure and come on the fly and buy something, okay? All right, so here we go, and we are going to we're going to charge this. We're going to confirm pay, and I'm not going to leave her a tip, darn it anyway. And I'm going to take my phone now, as you can see my phone here, and I'm going to put it over top, and you'll hear it click, and it is now approved, and we're now going to print. And here comes my receipt, and that is how you use Google Pay on your phone. It's so easy, you've got to try it, all right?
Safeguarding your online wallet. Ever get that nagging feeling that someone's watching you online? It's not just your cat judging your questionable search history. It's companies, advertisers, and sometimes not so friendly folks with less than noble intentions. In our hyper-connected world, protecting your privacy, especially when it comes to your hard-earned cash, is a serious game. Enter device tokens and their digital doppelgangers, the unsung heroes of online security. These technologies act like your personal bodyguards in the digital realm, shielding your sensitive information from prying eyes. But who offers these services and how do they differ? Let's dive in. Device tokens, your unique digital mask. Imagine a masquerade ball where everyone's wearing masks, making it impossible to tell who's who. A device token is like your unique mask in the online world. It's a string of random characters assigned to your smartphone, tablet, laptop, or any internet-connected gadget. This token doesn't actually reveal your identity, but instead acts as a stand-in when you interact with websites, apps, and services. Instead of sharing your actual account details with your bank app, for instance, the app uses the token as a reference point. Even if a cybercriminal somehow gets their grubby mitts on the token, it's useless to them without the secret decoder ring, which the bank keeps locked up tight. Who's offering device tokens? Device tokens are often implemented by banks, financial institutions, and online payment providers to secure your transactions. However, the specific technology behind them might differ. For example, Apple Pay and Google Pay. These mobile payment platforms rely on device tokens to secure your card details within their digital wallets. EMV 3D Secure, 3DS. This protocol, used by many online merchants, often incorporates device tokens to add an extra layer of security to your transactions. Digital doppelgangers, similar tech, different names. Device tokens aren't the only players in the online security game. Several other technologies offer similar protection, each with its unique twist. Virtual card numbers. These temporary card numbers are generated for each online transaction, masking your real card details. Services like Privacy.com and many banks offer this feature. Biometric authentication. Instead of relying on passwords, some apps and services use your fingerprint, face, or voice to verify your identity. This makes it much harder for hackers to impersonate you. Two-factor authentication, 2FA. This adds an extra step to the login process, usually by sending a code to your phone. Even if someone steals your password, they can't log in without that code. While these technologies are powerful tools, it's important to remember they're not foolproof. You still need to practice safe online habits, like using strong passwords and being wary of phishing scams. Think of device tokens and their digital doppelgangers as part of a multi-layered security approach, like having a bodyguard, a security system, and a guard dog all working together to keep you safe. Stay safe, stay secure, and the next time you're tapping away on your phone, shopping online, or checking your bank balance, remember, these unsung heroes are quietly working in the background, making sure your digital life and your wallet stay protected.
I hope you've enjoyed our video today. Thanks to Bob Gostischa for helping me produce this. And we'd sure appreciate that. Like and subscribe. And if you hit that notification, we'll let you know. All right. All right. This is a time where we have to say goodbye to our YouTube group that's listening. If you want to pop over in our meeting today and participate in the Q&A, please do so. Ray, I'm going to stop the stream now. You can take it away.
I'm hoping everybody can see that.
Yep, looks fine.
Today I'm going to talk about Jack Scott, a Canadian-American rockabilly legend. So every Thursday evening, I host a Zoom session for one of my music listening clubs. There's about 8 of us who play YouTube videos or music saved on our computers for the others to hear and learn about. Now, my friend John played the song Goodbye Baby, and it was in the discussion that followed when I learned for the first time after all these years that Jack Scott, one of my favorite singers from the 1950s, was Canadian. Now, Copilot has provided the following details, which I've converted to bullet points. So Jack Scott was born Giovanni Domenico Scafoni Jr. on January 24th, 1936 in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Was a Canadian-American singer and songwriter. He gained fame for his rockabilly hits during the late 1950s and early 1960s. Scott's music resonated with audiences, and he left a lasting impact on the rock and roll scene. Scott spent his early childhood in Windsor, just across the river from Detroit, Michigan. His family later moved to Hazel Park, a Detroit suburb. His mother, Laura, taught him to play the guitar, and he grew up listening to hillbilly music. As a teenager, he pursued a singing career, and that was when he started recording under the name Jack Scott. He formed the Southern Drifters and later signed as a solo artist with ABC Paramount Records in 1957. Now, his double-sided hit in 1958 featured Leroy, that came in at number 11, and the song I remember, My True Love, at number 3, which sold over 1 million copies. Scott continued to release successful singles, including With Your Love and Goodbye Baby, and by the early 1960s, he switched to Top Rank Records and charted hits like What in the World's Come Over You and Burning Bridges. Scott was inducted into the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame 2007. He also became a member of the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2011. Scott continued recording and performing throughout the 1960s and 70s, even reaching the country charts in 1974 with You're Just Getting Better. Jack Scott passed away on December 12, 2019, leaving behind a rich musical legacy. Now, many consider Jack Scott to be the first white rock and roll star to come out of Detroit. In today's video clip, he is backed by the Jordanaires, the same quartet that backed Elvis Presley on so many of his early hits before he was drafted into the Army. What most folks don't know is the Jordanaires provided backup for other singers in that era, to include Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, as well as many by Ricky Nelson. Jack
Well done, Ray. Good one. Thanks so much. Excellent. All right. That brings us to top of the hour. And we're going to be, I want to thank, if you have to run off, don't forget we have our Thursday show. I did put a link in the chat on the premiere video, which of course will be starting at hour. And we have some interesting selections there. So please, if you have to come back, it'll be open for you and you can watch it later. Otherwise, it'll start at hour. Don't forget to send your request to Bob for his shirt, extra large. We'll definitely we'll get you on the show and get him using the shirts. My daughter's not going to be here for the Q&A because she had to take my grandson to swimming lessons. So anyway, that will be, but I can certainly get any questions for you. So we'll be starting the Q&A now. If you have any questions, plus, please put your hand up and we'll answer them. I had a couple of comments about my video, or Bob and our video, just to let everyone know. The first thing was, so if you have, I know there's a lot of other reasons, and we've done videos about the perils of using a debit card in online shopping. So this was more of a video about, I wanted you to take your debit card and realize if you are going to use a debit card and you have the ability to tap, then it's much better to tap it because you're not inserting the card in and putting your PIN number, which is a very, very dangerous thing to do. One of the problems that you'll have, though, is that if you do try to tap and pay, and a lot of times your bank has put a limit on the amount that you can do the tap and pay. In other words, if you go to Costco and you're buying something and it's $300, you may find the limit is $250, so you'll be forced to insert it and put your PIN number in. The tap and pay won't work. And that is a problem which you don't have if you link your debit card onto a Google Wallet or Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. If you add it in there, then you won't have that problem. The other question I get asked a lot about is that on your debit card, some banks issue debit cards and it has a little MasterCard symbol on there, and you say, oh, no problem at all, I have all the security and everything because it's guaranteed by MasterCard. Well, it depends on your bank and depends on how your bank works, but some banks work their debit cards with a credit card. And so that it all sort of flows into each other and one protects the other. But in order to get that, then you need to qualify for a credit card, which puts you back in the same situation with credit. And if you don't want credit and you can't get credit and you only want a debit card with no credit, then you need to request that and not get the other type of card that occurs. So I appreciate the fact, and I think living without a credit card is great for many people, and using a debit card is inherently dangerous. And that's the goal Bob and I wanted to put forth today, is that if you are going to use a debit card, use the tap and pay part, or link it into your Google Wallet or your Samsung or Apple Wallet.
Ron,
Yep.
if I can interject, if you can't use tap and pay, but still want to use your debit card, then go to PayPal and use your debit card as the payment card through PayPal.
Right.
Then when you use PayPal, it doesn't expose your debit card information.
Right. And
So
PayPal even has an app on your phone, right?
that's correct.
Right. So if you want to use PayPal as an app on your phone, but then I'm going to argue, why not use Google Wallet or not use Apple Pay or Samsung Pay? It's all the same thing, right? It's all giving you the same protection. So those are all good things. It's just, please don't, like the man that stood in front of me for $3.75, put his debit card in and his PIN number. I mean, if he had a bunch of money in his account, that could be gone very easily. So that's just not a good thing to do. All right. I don't see any questions.
There is a question about the topic in the chat right now you might want to look at.
I just dawned on me with tap and pay. If it's stolen, can anyone else with the card continue to use it with tapping? Are you talking about your debit card? Are you talking about, I guess that would be
talking about stealing the phone and then continue to use.
Well, if you have your phone, of course,
Yeah.
in order for any of these apps to be set up on your phone, they require a level of security. So you would require a password, you'd require a facial identification or fingerprint unlocking. There's some sort of security that must be activated in order these apps won't install on your phone.
I believe Linda's question is, you have your card in your wallet is stolen. You have then the person who has your card from your stolen wallet can just tap it and receive the payment.
And that is true. And that's probably why there's a limit on the tap and pay to 200, there's a limit on what you can do tap and pay with. So if you go to if you're at Costco and you're there, and as I said, if your grocery bill is 350, there's probably a limit of 250. And that's why the tap and pay, there is a limit, which is another reason to if you have your choice on a debit card. My debit card does not have tap and pay, and so it's linked into my Google Wallet, which offers a protection for me, right?
Ron, let me ask you this though: how many stores have the ability to use your phone as to payment? I imagine big supermarkets might, but aren't there a lot of smaller stores that
any receptacle where you would use a credit card, you'd be able to use the Google Wallet, Apple Wallet, or it's all the same technology. And the amazing thing is in some of the articles that we've looked at recently is the absolute explosive growth in this technology in Europe and in different parts around the world. This will be, trust me, honestly, I said cable companies are going away, Ray, right?
Yes.
But true. Honestly, trust me, this is the next cashless society. This is where we're going to be. It's so much better and so much more secure that's where we're going to be. So it is used. And the other thing is, we talked on Thursday, there was an article that came out last week on 1 in 6 people define the website that they want to purchase things on based on the payment. In other words, I will not go to a website, or if I want to purchase something online and they don't have PayPal, I am not giving, and I don't know who that site is, I'm not giving them my credit card number. It's not going to happen, right? So they must have, and 1 in 6 people make a decision on what services that are available for payment, which is interesting. Murray, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, going back to very beginning, Z and Z. I think Z is everywhere in Canada, not just some places. And my biggest challenge when I moved to Pittsburgh to take my PhD was remembering in math, engineering, and physics classes to say Z instead of Z. But anyway, I did want to mention that I don't think my bank's debit card can be put in Apple Wallet. And I know that my Walmart MasterCard can't be put in Apple Wallet. And then the big problem with PayPal for me, one of my big challenges in dealing with ordering in the States is a lot of the sites are too stupid to know that you can have a US credit card while you live in Canada, and they won't accept my credit card because I don't have a US zip code. And that's a real nuisance for me because PayPal is that way too. They won't let me charge stuff to my US credit card in US dollars. I have to charge it in Canadian dollars, and they do the conversion, which is more costly than when I just transfer money to the US bank. Anyway, those are my comments.
Maria, I'm surprised that your credit card companies will not link into Apple Pay. I mean, Apple Pay is universally accepted everywhere. I'm absolutely surprised. Are you sure that that's true?
Yeah, when I try to link my especially my Walmart MasterCard, it says can't do it. Walmart Financial or whatever it is won't allow their card to be. They won't allow it to be linked to Apple Pay.
That is well, that's
I mean,
a
it's
no-brainer.
weird.
That's
Time to change banks.
So I don't use it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that's extremely weird because I have not had any problems at all with.
Well, I haven't had with any other credit card, but that one won't do it. And well, of course, my bank has all changed, so I haven't tried the new bank. Been painful enough dealing with change of bank because my bank got sold.
Right. Okay. Diane, go ahead.
How again? Yeah, I use that. Shop Pay, I believe I'm saying it correctly, is another choice I see when I try to use my PayPal. And if that vendor does not have PayPal, they say go ahead and use Shop Pay, and it automatically connects with PayPal. So I'm not understanding how that works.
I don't know, Bob. Have you heard of Shop Pay?
No.
I see Shop Pay on a lot of my Etsy sites. I don't know if you guys know what Etsy is.
Yeah.
They won't, if they won't accept, I'm not going to substitute something I don't know for something I know. And so if they won't accept PayPal and say to use this because it works just like, I'll buy it somewhere else.
Well,
yeah,
that's
I think the Shop Pay is the same as Shopify, isn't it?
I don't
No,
know.
Shop
When
Pay's
I said
I'm
I
looking at it on.
pay,
Yeah, I'm looking at Shop Pay online now, and it's a payment service, which is, I guess, like PayPal. It's I don't know much about it. You'd have to do some reviews on it, but it sounds like it's again a payment service like PayPal that does that. Right.
But I did not sign up for it. All I did was say, I'm not gonna buy that. I'll back out of the transaction because you don't have PayPal. And they came back and said, yes, go ahead and use PayPal. And when the transaction came through, it said it was Shop Pay. But I did not sign up for Shop Pay, but it showed up on my PayPal account. Right. I just wanted to see what the difference was.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Maybe we'll have to do a video about that. Maybe we'll have to do some research.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you very often place. For example, if I order something from Pinnacle Studio, the bill will actually say Blue River or something or other. And a lot of the places, like, they may very well take the PayPal, money goes through PayPal, but instead of showing up as that merchant, they're using Shop whatever it is.
Oh, that's true.
That's
Yeah,
their payment.
Murray, that's right.
Well,
So
that's
they
a
made-
possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time where you put something on PayPal, but it doesn't go to the merchant you think it goes to. It goes to a, you're right, Murray, that happens all the time.
Yeah, they're using a payment service. For
Yeah,
all of
payment
their
service. So it might be
purchases.
Shop Pay may be a payment service as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would really, what we really want to do is get away from, and you should
Thank you
never,
again for
ever,
your
ever,
patience.
ever, ever, ever put your debit card and PIN number on the internet. That is just,
Oh, yeah.
that is just a disaster. But people do that. They book their trips, they pay for things, they do all sorts of things using that debit card because a lot of people can't get a credit card. They have very bad credit rating. But if you link your debit card into the services we've talked about in the video, then you have that protection, right? Well, except not the insurance and cancellation and all the other things that happens with a credit card, but as far as security goes, that's a good way to go.
There's also a debit card directly through PayPal, and you fund it by making a transfer into, hold on. Okay. You transfer money from your bank into PayPal, and then again, you're using PayPal. You're not using a debit card.
Right. Also on Amazon, if you're concerned about that, you can buy Amazon gift cards. And that's a good way to make your purchases on Amazon using Amazon gift cards. Huey.
Yes. First of all, Clark Howard, a person who does podcasts now and used to do a radio show about helping people with all kinds of financial things, calls the debit cards fake MasterCard and fake Visa cards, which I think is an interesting way to explain it. But prior to a few years ago, I used to use temporary credit card numbers. Discover had at Bank of America, who has my MasterCard and another card I had, all used something like that, where you could go to that website, which is the bank, and say, I want a temporary, and they give you a number that wasn't your regular credit card number, but was tied to it. And you would give a limit to it. Let's say $50 because you were buying something for $35. And there might be some other costs. So the most that you could lose if something was wrong was the $50. Now, Discover has done away with that. Bank of America has done away with it. And I just don't have access to something like that. And it's a shame because it worked really well.
I think what Bob and I talked about today is just the newer way of doing things that works much quicker and faster and easier. And that is just an older idea. So
also one thing to remember is tap and pay doesn't work when you purchase something online. That's where you need the protection of going through somebody else so that your actual card, whether it's a credit or a debit card, is never actually presented to the merchant where you're doing your purchase.
Yeah. I also saw on the news today that sometime either this month or next month, Target is no longer going to accept checks.
What's a check? What's a check?
A lot of us don't use them anymore anyway.
I've never seen a check in the last, I don't know how long. Yeah. I can imagine if you walked into somebody and said, "Can I write you a check?" That I don't think anybody takes checks. In fact, I think that most of the banks now, there's a big surcharge. I know if I ordered at my bank, if I ordered 25 checks at $75 for 25 checks.
My mechanic doesn't take a credit card. It's either cash or a check. When we send out money to a charity, my wife sends out a check, and we don't get the checks from the bank. We get them from another service that prints checks for a lot less than what your bank charges.
But don't you think, Bob, I mean, we found this great little Chinese restaurant here, and it's a little hole in the wall, and they have a big sign outside that says cash or debit. And I mean, most people who only take cash usually say cash or debit. They'll take debit because there's no, I guess there's no fee to them, so they'll take debit. So I
Right.
mean, you know, I think that really has got away from the whole check. I mean, everyone would have a debit card if you have a checking account. So you might as well just use the debit card, right?
The reason they say debit or cash is because a debit card, in essence, is paying with
That's right.
cash.
Exactly.
Something goes wrong, there's nothing backs you up.
That's right.
Consider it lost.
Right.
And a
Carl,
lot
go
of
ahead.
places.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Carl, go ahead. Hello, Carl.
Okay, I guess I'm back. Instead of using a credit card online, I write a check. In fact, I quit subscribing to Wall Street Journal because when they want these credit card numbers, they automatically renew you whether you like it or not. And so I only pay by check, and a lot of things that's like donations and things, I will not give my credit card. I use a check. And because most of the time you don't have an option for PayPal. If PayPal is there, I use it every time. But if lacking PayPal, I do not give my credit card online. I use a check. They don't take a check, they don't get my subscription.
All right. Okay, listen, it is 20 after. It's time to leave. Thank you so much. I think it's been a great show today. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Bill James, for your presentation. Thank you, Ray Baxter. Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Huey, for being here. All right. And we will see everybody back again, same time, same place next week. Don't forget about our Thursday show this Thursday, right? On Thursday, and come and listen to us talk about all the news of the week. Otherwise, have a great week. Stay cool and stay hydrated, and make sure you read our newsletter because we often talk about great things for your health. All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.